Welcome to another Airbrush Asylum video. In this tutorial video I am going to show you how to airbrush some simple clouds. So they're not designed to be full photorealistic, but just a nice looking cloud that you can utilize this technique to create your own clouds in whatever artwork it is that you are creating. So let's get into it right now. You can see I am using Trident True White and Trident Blue, so the True Blue. And this is going to make a nice light blue sky color that I'm going to use for this particular painting. So mixing ratios just depend on how strong you want that blue to be or how light you want it to be. Obviously, if you want it a bit stronger, add more blue into it. You can also experiment with different types of blue. Doesn't necessarily have to be this particular brand. So if you use any white mixed with a blue, you're going to get a slightly different tone, but just feel free to experiment. I'm also adding reducer into this once I'm happy with the strength of the blue mix. So you can see here I'm just adding a few little extra drops, just wanted it a bit darker, so just continue to add. Remember, you can always add, it's very hard to go backwards. So if you've gone too dark, it's very hard to lighten it back up with the white. Alright, so just take your time with this step, make sure that you're happy with it. If you have to, do a bit of a spray out, and then you'll see exactly how the color's going to look. So the next thing I want to do is I just want to rough in the cloud shapes. So what I'm doing, I want to mask off a positive area. So I'm ripping a piece of A4 copy paper and I'm just unevenly ripping that to create a cloud sort of shaped bit of paper that I can utilize, as you see here, as a positive mask, and then that's going to leave the white section of the cloud, and then we're going to go ahead and render that from there. So the airbrush that I'm using at the moment in this particular step is the Iwata HPC S Eclipse. It runs a 0.35mm needle nozzle setup, so nice and handy for this particular step. It also does really well with detail work, so a great little brush from the Iwata range, and definitely one that I highly recommend to anyone that wants sort of to kick their airbrushing off and start off with a good quality airbrush which will do many different things for them. So just using that paper template, working that around, and you can see I'm leaving a white section. So I'm using my stencil there to mask off and protect the overspray from hitting that white area, creating that sort of roughing in my cloud shapes, and then we're going to continue to render from there. So just be free with this. I did download a reference image off Google, so you can just do an image search for clouds, and just using that as purely as a reference. So as you can see, I'm pretty much just making it up as I go with the paper, but it is handy to have that reference there once we start getting into the detailing side of it. And now I'm just freehanding that blue in, so trying to colour it in nice and neat. I'm aware I'm getting a bit of overspray, not super concerned with that at this stage. If you're doing, this is on an aluminium composite panel, so I could come back in with, say, like a little Q-tip or cotton bud with a bit of airbrush cleaner on there and erase some of that overspray if it was really bothering me to get that stark white. But you'll see I'm just going to leave it as is to show you guys how to do it really easily. And if you're doing this on synthetic paper, then by all means you could use an eraser pencil to easily clean off that overspray. So something to keep in mind if you've been using that as well for your artworks. Okay, so now that I've finished flat toning the blue, I'm getting some paper towel here and I'm just doing the same sort of thing, ripping it, but instead the reason I'm using paper towel is it's a bit softer, so this will give me a softer edge when I'm utilizing this particular mask. So now I've mixed white with Payne's Grey from Trident. So if you don't have Payne's Grey, you can mix it with something similar, or just make up a grey using white and black. And what I'm doing now is I'm putting in the shading for the cloud. So you can see I'm freehanding as well as utilizing that paper template. I've also switched my airbrush to the Iwata CMC Plus Micron. This runs a 0.23mm needle and it's just really handy for all-round detailing, and I use these a lot. So you notice my trigger as well, that I've kept that depressed at all times, really utilizing my double action technique, and just moving in if I want some sharper sort of detailing, and then further away for the softer shading. So you'll notice that this grey is obviously opaque, which is what I want. It's softening off the edges to give it a more cloud appearance along my masking edge, and also just works really well with covering any of that overspray that we got from the blue. And obviously the other color that we're going to utilize to make these clouds is white, which is also opaque. So hence why I said to you earlier I wasn't too concerned about the slight overspray that I was getting. So just working all that in, flicking off there as well, just to create a bit of movement with the clouds. So if this is the first time to the channel, I'd love to have you as part of our community. Feel free to hit subscribe, tap on that bell icon, and that'll notify you every time I put out new content. And if you think that this video could help someone that you know, feel free to share it out to them, or any other community that you might find that would benefit from this particular content. So as you can see here, just adding some extra cloud there in certain areas with the grey straight on top of the blue, and you can see how easily that just opaques straight onto that blue. And then we'll come in with the white for the highlights, so that'll really shape these particular clouds as well as our masked out sections. Okay, so now I'm coming in with white, and I'm going to start to add my detailing and highlights on the clouds. So this is a mixture of working up close to get some real defined edges, generally on the top of the cloud. For this particular one, obviously we've kept the shading on the lower part of the cloud because our highlight is on the top. So again, if you're unsure, this is where a reference can come in really handy. You can see how nicely that white opaques straight over the top there. And I can even change the shape of the cloud working straight onto the blue and flick off certain areas to give it that movement. And also another trick is if your clouds are further in the background, you can blur them a little bit more and then have the focal points sharper, so that's going to give you that sense of depth. So you can see I'm working reasonably close here just to get that defined edge and just building different textures. You can also utilize some of the paper masks or the paper towel mask that we were using earlier Just be careful, you want to mix it up with a bit of freehand as well as the masking. You don't want it to look too sharp everywhere. So you'll notice here I have grabbed my paper towel, which we tore earlier, and I'm just utilizing that to get some more defined highlights in the clouds. This isn't going to be as sharp as if I was to use the actual paper masks that we made for the first step. So depending on what and how sharp you want it, just refer back to your reference, or what particular style and look that you're after for the cloud. So just allowing the white to build up on the surface, not trying to smash it on in one hit, and just gradually brightening up certain areas of the cloud with different techniques. You can see I'm doing some little flicks off there as well, and just up nice and close to get some of that real sharp detail like that on the edge. But I'm also leaving some negative space, and this is creating a bit more of a 3D element. So you can see here that by working that white over some of those grey areas on the lower section of the cloud, you're creating extra layers of cloud and giving it a more 3D appearance. I do apologise for the compressor kicking in at such an inconvenient time. So just continuing to add highlights to all of the areas just to build a bit more definition and shape to the cloud. So again, just add as much as you like, as long as you don't just cover over all of the lower section to lose the shape of the cloud. So you want to still have that highlighted area and the shadow tone underneath. And here is the completed artwork on the aluminium composite panel. I'll most likely clear coat this particular artwork with the glossy clear. I do hope that you enjoyed watching this particular tutorial video. Stay tuned for the next one. Until then, go grab your airbrush, do some amazing artwork yourself, and I'll see you again very, very soon for our next tutorial video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.